Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So glad we're going to talk with her today because the timing is perfect. The start of a brand new year. Lots of us view it as a clean slate and maybe contemplating making some change. Maybe you're at a crossroads trying to decide. Maybe you had a life change, maybe a divorce, and you're wondering what path you should take. Or maybe you just have that feeling that there's something more out there for you. Life could be okay, but you're feeling there's more, but you're really not sure what it is yet or how to even figure that out. She helps as an amazing life coach and walks that journey with you. And we're going to learn all about that process of working with a life coach from Renee Tupper, who joins us today on the program. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Really good, really good. And if I could go back in time, I would have hired a life coach.
At what
I there's always time for one, but I'm saying back in the day, I didn't see what they do because I connected it like many do with therapy. Well, I'm talking to a therapist. Why do I need a life coach? It is it is different, right? Can you explain the differences for us?
So therapy, I think of as, you're kind of rehashing things that have happened in your past and how to get through it and how to deal with it and all those things. And it matters. It's definitely significant. And a lot of people need to go through that kind of work to get to where they need to be. But life coaching is more of where are you right now? And where are you trying to get to? And how do we get you there? So it's all about action steps and accountability. And I think of myself as a professional cheerleader. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
a therapist may be talking about stuff that happened with your mom or what have you, or, childhood stuff. I want to know where you want to be. So I'm looking more towards the future and how can I get you there? And what do you want for yourself as a, in your life? What brings you joy and how do you get more of it is the way I like to start most talks with people.
Do you find that people don't even know where to begin in the
Yes,
direction of their change?
yes, I do. I
Mm-hmm.
do. Because I think that to say, oh, I want to be happy is a really easy thing to say, but to actually know what that is or what brings that feeling into your life is hard to pinpoint. And sometimes they just need to talk through it. And then it's easy to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, but without any actual like action steps, what are you going to do this week? What does that look like tomorrow? Kind of thing. It's just kind of a out in the world thing that never actually happens. And then you have the same goals year after year without actually hitting them. So,
Mm. In a way, I get it. In this example, over the weekend, I had this thought. I'm going to clean out the files. My file cabinet, bills, and everything, paper stacking up. Let me dig into this. I feel that I'm fairly organized, but I'm going to tell you, even in that, I didn't even know where to begin. I was like, I'm not really sure. Once I got rolling into it, it was like, this is great. I'm making progress. I found things I didn't know I had. I kind of view it in the same way. Like I didn't know where to start. It was almost overwhelming to look at, I got files here. I got this is important. That's important. I almost said no. And in the end, I'm so happy I got it done. And I view that kind of similar in somebody having a situation in a direction they want to go in that I don't even know where to start.
oh, exactly. And in following the same analogy, sometimes people get lost in the weeds. So they start sorting through the files, let's say, and they get, sidetracked by something else, and then they never come back to finish the original task or,
Hmm.
finish sorting out those files because they've gone down the rabbit hole with something else because there's so many things in the files that can distract them. If we're using the same analogy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
Thing.
yeah.
So,
Absolutely. Um, Life coaching for you, how did this begin? There's got to be some kind of, and your passion is great already. Like your energy is amazing. Where did it start?
well, I think that I've always been that kind of a person, in general, but I started my second career after kids and that kind of thing. I was a special education teacher and we moved down to Mississippi and I started teaching emotionally disabled students, which sounds like, oh, but it's not really. They're just, you would almost not know that my students as a high school teacher are with me, but they have a lot of social issues and they have a lot of like things they need coaching through, self-advocacy, breakups, making friends, sitting in the cafeteria, all these goofy social things that I started coaching them through. And then, especially after COVID, I had a lot of students that were graduated or early college that would call me and say, hey, Mrs. Tupper, can you help me? I just can't seem to like make it through this. And I can't, and so then I started talking to students that had already graduated just on the side, not charging anyone, just as okay, let's talk about it. How can we, what did we do when you were with me? And those kinds of things. And it just kind of seemed like a natural transition. So helping the students that I help with, all sorts of social issues, that all that is coaching, really, in my opinion, and a natural transition for me. And so I think that so many people in life outside of high school could use that same kind of support system. And friendships are so different now that sometimes I think that we need to find that in another source, which is where I come into play.
Hmm.
So,
How do you view that in terms of friendships? You're added to their friendship list?
nah, I know I hate, no, not really. Because
Okay.
your friends sometimes will be a little too kind to you.
No,
Sometimes
they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right. Sometimes you need that extra push and you need someone to say, hey, wait a minute, we made a deal. And why didn't you follow through with the steps that we talked about last week? And if you really want to see this happen, then you need to do these things. And they also just need to call you out just a little. And I don't mean that to sound terrible, but I think everybody needs a little bit of that in their life. And with my students in the past have been able to do that. And your friends can't necessarily do that for you, but you need someone in your corner that's going to encourage you, but also hold your feet to the fire just a little, you know? So.
Do you feel that anything that we're looking for, we already know the answer? It's all inside of us. Everything we got, it's there. We just don't know how to listen to it or how to pull that out of us.
Oh, absolutely. The intuition is there for a reason. It
Yeah.
really is. And not enough people tune into that because they're not quiet enough to listen to it
Yep.
necessarily. And then they don't act on it because they either don't know how or they're afraid, and that's again where I come into play because
Mm.
it's a way. There's always a way. There's always a way to figure it out. And if you fall on your face, that's all right. That just, it's an opportunity for growth. How can we try that again in a different way so that you don't fall next time?
I,
Kind of thing.
I want to dig into the coaching process, but I'm going to turn the coaching car for just a second
Okay.
and go down the road of intuition. Because I agree with you 100%. That's why I even asked that question. We all know everything we need to know. It's all there, but listening to it, what does it look like for you? For example, choice A, choice B. Got to make a decision. How do you arrive at that decision using your intuition and knowing it's the right answer? What does it feel like?
Well, I think for a lot of times I ask my first question is, what does your gut say? When we're talking about these two things, what is the easy path? But then what's the path you really want to do? Because sometimes they're different, And I think that a lot of times what you have to do, you just don't want to. You just, I guess it's inconvenient or it's whatever. But it's a lot of like, what does your gut say? If you're super quiet and you're sitting and you're thinking about this, which direction do you think you want to go in? And a
Mm,
lot of times it is about slowing down, really focusing on what you're trying to get at and
hmm
then taking the steps to get there, even if
mm.
they're hard, you know.
I find, and I've gotten better at listening to my intuition, but side note, the gut feeling, same thing. I can go back decades and I can see myself in major life decisions and making the wrong decision, knowing I should have picked the other choice. But there are repercussions to decisions. But I find now that when I need to make a decision, the answer is the lighter answer, the one that just comes right to you. And
Right.
what happens is logic gets in the way and you're like, ah, it can't be that easy. No, wait, well, hold on a second here. And you usually gravitate to the harder answer, but that's usually the heavier one that doesn't really feel good, but it wasn't the easiest one. And it can't be the right answer, but it is.
Right. Right. No, I totally agree. I totally.
Mhm. Tell me what you coach people for. Who would be, the perfect person to go to your website, contact you? What are they going through?
And it sounds a little crazy, but I almost have two distinct groups. I mean, I think that everybody, I could pretty much work with anyone.
Hmm.
Honest. But a lot of my past coaching clients have been younger adults that are trying to, a lot of more autistic individuals that I connect with because I've dealt with a lot of them at school and I can see where their barriers are as far as transitioning into a job, transitioning into a relationship, and how they navigate those things and how they can express themselves and maybe learning to see a little empathy, in them and those kinds of things. Because for that particular population, that's an issue. So a lot of my coaching clients have been that type of, or just traditional students transitioning out of high school that they don't know what to do. They're early 20s and they're just floundering and they just don't know what to do. And
Mm.
so, I've had a lot of clients like that, but I also have a lot of empty nesters because I'm an empty nester myself and it's hard. And especially I think for the female front, because you've spent all this time taking care of someone and then they go and leave. They just leave, which is what we prep them for. But then when you look around, you're like, wow, do I like the other person that's in the house? If you're married, and do I like myself? Do I like myself? And what do I do now? Now that the kids are grown, do I have a life? And how do I balance still caring for them? Because I mean,
Mm.
there's ultimately always your children, and then getting a life of my own. So I really deal with a lot of empty nesters also, as far as what do I do now? Who am I? Kind of things. So
Wow, that's huge.
they're
And
two
and
really different groups, but they're just at
oh
weird
yeah, oh
times,
yeah. I,
So
I find it interesting when you said as an empty nester, now you look at the person that's in the nest and you might look at them in a different way. I'm not being negative here. It's just a realization. Things have changed. The
yes,
family dynamics have changed. Sometimes kids can be the buffer, and now it's a one-on-one with this person after many years. In the beginning, it was one-on-one, right? But
right.
now it could have changed, and it's maybe time for a reevaluation if you're feeling that. Do you feel that before anybody can really pilot their life the right way, that they need to love themselves?
Yes. Well, I talk a ton. I mean, at both age ranges about self-care.
Yeah,
Because you can't, if you're stuck in life and you don't know what you do, how can you best be your best possible self right now? And then a lot of times, the world will answer you as far as what you should be doing and your path and all of that. But if you're not taking care of yourself and you are just, spinning the same negative wheel around and around, then it's hard to find any kind of direction because you're just in a hole.
mm,
So yes, I think that, loving yourself and taking, self-care and being the best possible person you can be, helps you navigate the other sticky situations in life, job changes,
sure.
marriage
Yeah.
changes, whatever. So
Sometimes it takes major situations for you to realize that, but when it comes down to it, nobody's going to take care of you better than you. Nobody's going to love you better than you. And it's so sad that we look at ourselves sometimes in the mirror and we can't even say, I love you, or like, you're awesome. Like, with nobody around. I get it.
right, right.
But we can't do that. But we would never say to somebody we love, best friend or whatever, oh, look at that zit over there. Well, you're gaining a couple of pounds. You look horrible today. You would
Right.
never do that.
So
You would
mean
never.
to ourselves. Yes,
Right.
we're so just awful to ourselves.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I tell people all the time, you can't pour from an empty cup. Like if you have nothing in there, because especially women are, like how do I take care of my adult children in in a different kind of way and still feel needed and all the things. And I'm like, well, what about you? Like, how do you, if you want to be an example to your children, show them how they should be loving themselves first because we are a window to the world as far as that goes. And if we want to teach our kids how to take care of themselves and how to adjust well later in life, we have to do it ourselves. So
It is so true. But you don't know until you know. And then when you realize that, life is so different. But sometimes it takes a coach, somebody walking that journey to show you that, yes, it can be different. You need to care about yourself. You need to rely on yourself and build that resilience. What are your suggestions on that? For somebody that feels defeated, maybe in the victim mode right now over something. How do you get out of that? How do you crawl out of that?
Well, I think a lot of times you have to be able to take a step back and say, okay, maybe I'm not in a good place, and approach life with a little bit of humor and a little bit of forgiveness for yourself. Because we have all, as parents or spouses or just people, made all sorts of mistakes, and you can't dwell on it. And you just have to be able to say, okay, I shouldn't have done that. How can tomorrow be better? And it's all incremental. I don't think that anybody wakes up and completely changes their life today. They're all small, small steps. How can you be just a little bit better today than you were yesterday? Because, you can't, I tell the kids all the time, which, especially my autistic kids are like, Miss Tupper, what are you talking about? Like, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And I've actually had a couple of my kids be like, Miss Tupper, I don't want to eat an elephant. I'm like, okay, missing the point here, guys. But it's just small steps. How can you be just a little bit better today than you were yesterday? How can you be a little kinder to yourself? And how can you make progress, whether it's weight loss or just physical activity, all the positive endorphins, go outside.
Mm.
Go outside. It will make you feel better, I promise. Like all of those kinds of things. What brings you joy? Even little incremental pieces of joy. How do you incorporate more of that in your life?
I call them glimmers, and I guess it comes from glimmer of hope. But those little things that just make, oh, hey, you doing there? That's a big dog.
I have two Great Danes.
Oh
Yes.
wow, wow, it's so cool. Like he or she's head is like full frame there.
Sorry.
Wow, I just want to go over there and like give your dog a hug. Um, I lost my train of thought. I wasn't
I'm
expecting
sorry.
that. No, it's great. It's awesome. My dog would be here, and he's the best, well behaved, all of that. One challenge: whenever in this office building, the AC or the heat comes on for a split second, it goes boom. And he flips out, like he gets all nervous and everything. Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. Other than that, he's chill, no problem. I guess it's just the frequency, the noise, whatever. Um, going back to the coaching level for you, uh, where does it start? Do you get into somebody's backstory? Like you said before, with the therapy aspect of it, that goes into your past and there's a place for that. But do you need to identify as a coach those things in somebody's life that may have impacted their life before you can move them forward?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes. You need to know the backstory just to know what matters to them. Where are their values coming from as far as what's important to you? Why is that important to you? How does that play into your life? How has that served you in your past or not served you as far as that goes? Yes, it is super important to get to know someone before you ever try to,
Sure.
connect. Because without a relationship, without them feeling comfortable with you, nothing's going to happen anyway. As far as the coaching relationship,
Sure.
really need to make somebody feel comfortable. And I think that takes a couple of conversations before somebody can really relax and show you who they are and what they need, you know.
I feel that you're an empath. Am I right in saying that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. It's you ooze it. Like it's there. Like I feel that you pick up on people and you have not a judgment, but a read on them and maybe a little intuition going on there too that helps you. It's almost like a running start when you're working with somebody.
Yes, yes. Well, and I am that person that like again, bringing it back to school, like the first kid that I ever really coached after he graduated, we only met because I saw him in the hallway sitting with his, head in his hands, and I squatted down next to him and I was like, "Buddy, what's going on?" And like then he would come to my classroom, and he talked to me for years after high school, and COVID was so hard for him and being isolated, and he just
Ooh.
couldn't, like, he had a lot of social issues, and he was trying to get in the military, so we talked about the him taking the ASVAB, and like, I coached him through that. I do a little bit of academic coaching as well, just because, I'm a resource teacher, and I know a little bit about a little bit of everything as far as that goes. So I'm really good in math and, those kinds of things. So, I do a little bit of that as well. So I connect with people easily, especially if I can see someone struggling, then
Mm.
it's, I don't know. I've always been that way. So
When you see somebody struggling, do you innately just want to help them?
I do want to see what's going on.
Yeah.
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 Can I do something for you? And it's going to get better. It's just going to get better. Hold on just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It's, you know,
We're going back in your past. You're facing your younger self. What would you tell yourself?
relax. I was so uptight as a teenager and all of that. And that's part of why I went into teaching and that kind of thing. I had so many people as a super young person that helped me along the way.
Hmm.
Uh, Coaching at that time, if you would call it that, and looking out for me and trying to help me on a path. Um, and I would just tell myself to just take a breath. Not everything is so serious and not everything needs to be such a big deal. And just relax a little bit, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So,
We take it as, and I don't, it doesn't matter what generation, we take things a lot more seriously than we should or need to. And along the same lines, if I was looking at myself when I was younger, it would be definitely relax and don't worry what people think. Who
right,
cares what they think? But we get wrapped up in that. And even more so nowadays, especially teen girls, because of social media, everybody's worried about the other one and what they're thinking. And it's all a show, it's a facade, it's not even real.
right. And 10 years from now, will you even remember this instance? This instance that is controlling your whole life and your whole mindset right now. 10 years from now, will this matter?
Good point.
You know? So, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, those things that we put the microscope on, and it's such a big deal now, and it's a blip. Your life is this long, and it's like one little blip, but it's a big deal at this moment. But then again, that's where coaching comes in because we don't realize it. We're in it. You're flying above the bleachers, so to speak, and looking down for what the whole situation is. It's tough to see it
And
when you're in
also
it.
be grateful.
I was going to ask
Well,
you
yeah,
about
and
that.
I would yeah, gratitude. I would tell my younger self to just, again, relax, take a step back, and be grateful for what's in front of you right now because you're missing it. You're missing all the great stuff right now. Be grateful for what's in your life right now, even if it's the little things. I love to play two positives and a negative. So you have to tell me two really awesome things that happened today. Whether I'm in a coaching session or just talking to my own kids sometimes when they
Hmm.
get in that really awful place. You can't complain about something that's happened today until you tell me two awesome things about yourself or about the day that have occurred. And they have to be heartfelt. You have to really think about them. And then if you want to complain about something, feel free.
Hmm.
So I think that a lot, if you just really took a breath and were grateful for things in your life, you would have a different outlook and your day would be different. And then it's you got the ball rolling, to positivity and that kind of thing.
I love it. Two
So
positives and a negative. I got to remember that one. That's a good one.
and we're
It is.
looking for yourself when you're like, girl, I mean, because I mean, I'm human. Sometimes I need to remember that for myself as well.
For sure. But you know what I
So,
love most about it? It keeps it real. Instead of, putting the rose-colored glasses on and like everything's happy, happy, joy, joy, butterfly, sunshine, lollipops, and all of that. All right, let's look at two really good things. But life isn't just that. There's going to be some negative there.
stuff in there. Yes. But let's just keep a little bit of perspective on whatever awful thing you think is happening right now.
Right. I think by doing that, you have the realization that it's really not that bad, that negative thing.
Just perspective.
Hmm.
We have to deal with that negative thing and we have to get by it. But, you know, there's other things there too.
You said something before. Now, and that was my game changer 4 years ago. Somebody said that to me. Why don't you ever live in the moment? And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. No, you live in the past, you live in the future, you're not living in the moment. And I didn't even know what they were talking about until I processed it. Took a little bit of time, and I was like, oh, now I get it. And if you take this second right now and slice it, bam, right there, or that one, or that second right there, what's wrong with it? Nothing. There's nothing wrong.
Right. Right. And don't miss the beauty in every day because it's there. You just got to look for it.
Yeah. Well, we all have choices. You need to be
Exactly.
intentional and make that choice for sure.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm. So make
Yes.
the choice and change your life in 2025 with a life coach. You are so approachable, so grounded, so positive, and I really mean that. It's so easy to talk to. Uh, we're out of time. I don't want to stop. How do we
Oh,
find?
okay.
Yeah. How do we find you? How do we connect with you?
I have a website. It's lifecoach dash inspired at .com. And, people can email me. That's lifecoachinspired@icloud.com. Again, going to the website, it's got my number on it, all that kind of, all that kind of stuff. So.
And you're not just anybody, you're certified in this, but I love the fact that you're connected through your other work, and you also see it through both eyes, whether somebody's younger or somebody's older. Isn't it amazing, the parallels? Like you said it before, if somebody's younger, they may be going through some isolation, not even just COVID, but just in general. And then an empty nester situation, you got the same kind of isolation, different situation, but it's still there.
And the sad thing for me, for the empty nesters, they almost feel like they don't have a right to be sad, and that's, that opens up a whole new thing. But yes, absolutely.
Renee, great talking with you today. Thank you so much for the insight, and appreciate you being here. And maybe someday we'll get a chance to talk again.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.